Narrative is the biggest portion of the Bible. And so if we want to understand the Bible, we need to learn to read narrative well. I'm so glad you've joined me for this course. The first thing we need to recognize is that to read the Bible well, we have to consider several different dimensions of its context. The Bible did not drop from the sky, leather-bound with our name on it, ready to answer modern questions. The Bible was written in an ancient context, using genres that made sense to ancient people, and it conveys theological themes. So if we want to understand Scripture well, we need to consider its context, its historical context. What else is going on in the ancient world around the time that the events in this text took place? We need to think about the cultural context. What's normal for everyday life for people in this time period? What are their values? What are their hopes? And what are their fears? We need to consider the literary context. Where is this story in the unfolding narrative of Scripture? What comes right before it and what comes right after it? And attending well to its literary design and the features that make it what it is will help us to understand a text in all of its dimensions. Finally, we need to consider the theological context. Where is this in the unfolding of God's self-revelation that we see from Genesis to Revelation? What sort of themes does it connect with and does it inform? So this particular course is going to zero in on the literary context and the question of the literary design of biblical narrative. According to Leland Ryken in his classic book, Words of Delight, if we look at how the Bible presents its material, it resembles a literary work more than anything else. It is filled with stories, poems, visions, and letters. The thing that it is emphatically not is what we so often picture it as being, a theological outline with proof texts attached. Now, to say that the Bible is a literary work is not the same as saying that it's fictional. Something can be a literary work and can point to actual historical events. But the historical events have been told and shaped in particular ways to convey a point. There are three main categories of biblical literature: narrative, poetry, and discourse. This course is going to focus specifically on narrative, on the stories of the Bible and how those stories are told. What is our goal, or what should be our goal as we're reading biblical narrative? It's not so much to find out what happened, although we will learn what happened along the way. But we're not finished understanding a story of the Bible as soon as we can plot it on the timeline and know what came before it and what came after it chronologically. Our goal is rather to ask the questions, why is this story being told? Why did the author tell it this way? Of all the options that were available to them, why this type of story? For whom was it written? Who's the implied audience of the story? And what big idea is the author trying to convey? And when we pay attention to the details of the text, this begins to emerge. Our goal is to get to the meaning of the story intended by the author. So it's not enough to know what happened and when. We want to find out why it's being communicated and to whom, and what is the goal for readers of the story. The Bible gives us God's perspective on the events that shaped Israel as a nation. It not only tells us what happened, but why. And the purpose of the Bible's account is to form a people of faith. It's not just letting us, just so you know, this happened. Its purpose is to demonstrate what God is like, what He has done for His people, and how He expects His people to live in response to His saving grace. And if that's important to you, like it is to me, then we need to hunker down and pay attention to the details and the literary design of the text so we don't miss its message.